for keeping to the time over lunch. And I am told we should be back online now after having had some sort of hardware issue this morning that brought down our internet stream. So I'll say welcome back as well to the persons online. And I think we can now take a few minutes to go around the room, although I see one person walking out, but we'll catch him on the way back, I imagine. To go around the room and let just basically have everyone introduce themselves, and we also let the remote participants get an opportunity to say who they are as well. So we'll just need a roving mic. I see a mic there. Just basically who you are and your affiliation, which of the and your affiliation, if any, which of the stakeholder groups you might consider yourself in: government, private sector, civil society, academia, technical community, as the case might be. I forget. End users, right? Individuals, end users. Okay, so let's go.
Hi, can everyone hear me? Hi, my name is Hector Cruz. I represent BV Electricity Corporation. I am in the IT department, acting as IT manager right now, and that's it.
BVI.
Okay, hello. Hi everyone, I'm Roxanne John. I'm the Caribbean Regional Communication Infrastructure Program, CARSIP, Project Coordinator for Savings and the Grenadines. I'm also the President of ISOC Savings and the Grenadines chapter. And RN 40. Thank you. Well, actually, under the CARSIP project, we will have purchase all equipment for an IXP. So we have a local IXP, and I'm chairing that working group for the IXP. I'm also an RN 40 fellow, and to be ICANN 60 fellow in October. And I also worked, on various groups. So basically, I am working with the government. I'm an end user, and I'm also want to be, an activist on internet governance. So I have started a course, and I believe I have a lot of support on my end. And for Savings and Grenadines, we are hoping that we can really contribute significantly to the growth of internet development, and not just in St. Vincent, but also the region. Thank you.
Thank you.
Afternoon, everyone. I'm Rosina Gomes from the Conservation and Fisheries Department, which is under the Ministry of Natural Resources and Labor. I'm the GIS officer, meaning I do geographical information systems for the environment. So this is somewhat out of my scope, but I'm learning a lot.
It's not out of your scope. Do you use the internet? There you go. It's in scope.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Deirdre Williams. I come from St. Lucia. I'm an end user. I'm concerned about involvement of people with disabilities and things like online child protection. Goodbye.
I'm Gregor Williams. I'm the other half of Deirdre Williams here. When Albert was speaking this morning, I was trying to frame up a question for him, because about 1995, those two, Albert and my wife, were the ones who first started this internet thing in St. Lucia. And I can remember them fighting with Cable Wireless about setting the first internet system in St. Lucia. So I'm an end user, civil society. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everyone. Kevin Swift. I represent the Latin American and Caribbean Internet Addresses Registry. That, I think, is what we are using now, as opposed to the NIC, which no longer is applicable. I am a Caribbean end user as well. And I also do work to support the Geneva Internet platform to give our events in the Caribbean a bit more of a highlight or a boost and be known more internationally.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Gary Kalu, and I'm with the Caribbean Telecommunications Union Secretariat.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Michelle Garcia, the communications specialist of the CTU. So I'm the person behind all the Facebook posts and tweets. And I recognize some of you by name, some of you through meetings. I've been hearing your names like Roxanne John. I've met you on Facebook. Albert Daniel, well, not in person, but thank you for retweeting and sharing my post on Facebook. Bevel Wooding, of course. And I would take this opportunity to encourage the rest of you to connect with us on our social media platforms. Facebook, Twitter, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and our YouTube channel. Thank you very much.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Ashal Ford. I am the chairperson of the Barbados CIGF Steering Committee. I am first and foremost an internet end user, and then everything else. Including a representative of the government of Barbados and president of a nonprofit organization called No to Online Abuse and Harassment. Yeah, that's it for me.
Good day to all. I'm Irvin Williams, the director of the National Telecoms Regulatory Commission of St. Kitts and Nevis. And obviously, the issue of internet governance comes right down our street. And so I'm sorry that David had to go because I wanted to take him up on a good fight this afternoon. But I reserve that for another time.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Trevor Liburd from St. Kitts, and I'm the Spectrum Manager for the NTRC, which is governed under ECTEL, and I'm an end user.
Good day, I'm Russell Jones, Project Manager for the Next Generation 911 System, formerly Chief Technology Officer at the Regulatory Commission, been in communications a while. Background military.
Wow. Sounds accurate.
A pleasant good afternoon to everyone. My name is Jervisina Martin. I'm from the British Virgin Islands Ports Authority. Employed as an IT supervisor, and this is actually my first forum of this kind, but it has been an enlightening session. Thank you.
Very good.
Oh. I'm stuck in the corner, sorry. Hi, my name is Gipal. Whoa, sorry. Never happened before. I'm French-Canadian, therefore my terrible accent. I work as a manager for technology risk services for BDO. I'm the president of ISSA, Information System Security Association in the BVI. So if anybody wants to join, anybody who's interested in IT security, we meet last Tuesday of every month, and we're looking for members. That'll be great. Thanks.
The lady just coming in. Oh.
Good afternoon. My name is Brenda Sprav. I'm a data security analyst with the Virgin Islands government.
Okay.
BVI.
Leave it.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Is it working?
Good afternoon. My name is Maxwell George. I'm the Deputy Director of Trade, Investment Promotion, and Consumer Affairs. And I'm very pleased to be here because I'm seeing a lot of applications coming in for people doing business online. So it's giving me an eye-opener as to what is happening. Thank you.
Excellent.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Carlton Samuels. I'm from Jamaica. I've been around this business for a little while. I have lots of, like Sheridan and Jacqueline said, we wear a lot of hats. Sometimes it depends on where I am. I'm with the government of Jamaica. Other times I'm in civil society. Other times I'm an academic. And other times I'm just plain old-fashioned end user.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rudy Daniel. I'm from St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I am principally an activist who works with all the stakeholders to move on the multi-stakeholder governance process, which I believe is not always completely understood. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Andrew St. Hilaire. I am Acting Deputy Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Communications and Works. And like I explained earlier this morning, I actually been to one of these sessions a few years ago. So I've been around for a while myself.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Albert Daniels. I am the Senior Manager for Stakeholder Engagement with ICANN, the Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers. And I work for you, the multi-stakeholder community, because ICANN facilitates your participation in policy development with regard to Internet governance and Internet resources.
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Vance Lewis. I am the Special Advisor to the Minister for Communication and Works in the Ministry of Communication and Works. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jacqueline Morris from Trinidad and Tobago. My job is as an academic. I teach in the University of Trinidad and Tobago. My other job is Internet governance person, resource person.
Yes.
I've been involved since 2002, which was the preparatory to the WSIS. I was a member of the Working Group on Internet Governance. I was chair of the at-large end-user group in ICANN. I've worked with I was associate chair of the nominating committee of ICANN, which is the group that pulls people into leadership roles. We go out there and it's like the ICANN headhunter group. I'm president of the Trinidad and Tobago Computer Society, or chairman, I can't remember the official name, which is an end user organization. And I am currently a director of the Trinidad and Tobago Multi-Stakeholder Advisory Group. And we convene the Trinidad and Tobago IGF, and we had that first one in January 2017, and we're preparing for a second in January 2018. I think that's it. Thanks.
My name is Dev Gosain. I am an internet end user. Also involved in education administration. I'm also wearing the same garment as Jacqueline should be wearing, but anyhow, represent the same organization. I'm also director in, she says she's keeping it for tomorrow. They also represent the Trinidad and Tobago Multi-Stakeholder Advisory Group. You know, you really want to give an next plug for the MAGs. They're very much needed. I'm also involved, like I said, in education administration. Thank you very much.
We have some remote intros. Renata Aquino Ribeiro is from ISOC.
Good afternoon, all. I'm Ilford Parsons. I'm with the Telecommunications Regulatory Commission. I'm the Chief Technology Officer there.
Maybe you could have the person at the head table just, well, yes, I'll introduce these two shortly, again. And the third one is Justin Barrow, who is from the Public Utilities Commission in Belize. I'll give his full introduction shortly, but probably we could see who is online as well. If we have any remote hubs, if they can announce themselves or into the room.
Well, you have two on the live stream chat.
Two on the live stream chat, but I'm talking about the Zoom. Yeah. Is anyone going to make an introduction of themselves? Okay.
Okay, live stream, we've got Renata from Brazil, ISOC Brazil. She's the SIG blockchain, and she's also in ICANN in the non-commercial users group for Latin America and the Caribbean. She says, great to be here and see all of you. Hi, Carlton, Jacqueline, and everyone.
Okay.
And Devananti Luxing. Devananti Luxing, Internet End User, Founding Director of the Trinidad and Tobago Computer Society, involved in ICANN at large and Vice Chair of the Trinidad and Tobago Multi-Stakeholder Advisory Group.
Okay. Yes.
And Niran Bihari from Trinidad.
This would be a good time for us to test our remote. Is no one? Okay. All right. Well, we'll go ahead. We'll go ahead. So this afternoon, essentially, we are having two big sessions. One related to cybersecurity, and the second one related to, well, I guess it's cybersecurity as well, but we'll hear more about DNSSEC from ICANN. But in this first session, or just prior to opening the first session, we'll have a short talk from Mr. Justin Barrow, who is the Director of Telecommunications at the Public Utilities Commission in Belize. And apparently he's a lawyer, and apparently he has law in his DNA, coming from a family of attorneys at law, based in Belize City. He is the in-house counsel and director of telecoms at the PUC in Belize. Justin is working towards modernizing the telecommunications and the regulatory landscape in Belize and improving harmonization with its Mesoamerican and Caribbean neighbors. I guess that Meso is from, yes, it's like Central American, but there was I'm trying to remember the, Amerindian group. It's not Mayan. That's what I want. It's the Mayans. I guess it comes from the Mayan heritage. He aided in the launching of the Belize Internet Exchange Point in 2016, which was the first one in Belize. And it is a registered not-for-profit company. And he was also instrumental in the conduct of Belize's first cybersecurity symposium in 2017. And that is what he's going to come and talk a bit about, preceding the rest of the discussion on cybersecurity. He's also represented Belize on regional and international stages at the ITU, the World Radio Communication Conference. He's been head of delegation at ITU's World Telecommunication Standardization Assembly last year, and is the regular head of delegation at the OAS at CITEL and at CITEL Permanent Consultative Committee meetings. So he's coming to talk to us about the Belize Cybersecurity Symposium. He'll talk in English, although he's also conversant in Spanish. So please welcome Justin to speak to us. Yeah.
Hello?
Yeah, it's on.
Okay. Okay, hi everybody. So as Nigel said, Belize recently held its National Internet Governance Forum. This year we called it a Cybersecurity Symposium because we wanted to focus solely on cybersecurity because we felt it was an issue that needed addressing. All right, so going into it, we wanted to achieve a few things. We wanted to increase public education on the importance of internet security. You hear about a lot of attacks in the news, so we're very wary about those kind of things taking place in Belize. We don't want them to happen, right? We don't want to hear about the hospitals being ransomed or banks or anything like that. So, right? So we're trying to stay ahead of those kind of things. We wanted to improve security standards among our local ISPs. So in Belize, we have about 23 ISPs. It sounds like a lot, but many of them don't have overlapping service areas. So what we find happening is even though we have a lot of ISPs, we don't have the kind of competition that we'd like, because competition we would expect would encourage them to increase their standards, but we didn't find that happening, right? So as a regulator, we were thinking here about looking what we could do to get them to put themselves in better shape, no? And then also we wanted to take a look at the legal landscape, encouraging the implementation of laws. So I assume many of you here would know about the HIPCAR project that produced some framework documents, I think back in 2011. 2011, Nigel? HIPCAR? 2011? All right. But what we had in Belize was that even though we had this, we had not implemented the suite of laws, right? So we wanted to bring this up for discussion, right? So we as far as that goes, we have certain treaty obligations, but really when there are no local laws in place, it makes it difficult, perhaps questionable, how you go about enforcing these treaties where you're supposed to be exchanging information and extraditing people, these kind of things, no? And also in the Belizean Constitution, we actually have a right to privacy. But that right to privacy has not been fleshed out at all, especially as regards data, right? So we wanted to discuss all of these things. So going into the Cybersecurity Symposium, it was a very large event. We had many sub-fora. We had a legal forum just for attorneys. We had a judicial forum for judges. We had a financial forum for banks. We had an ISP forum just for our internet service providers. So the idea was to focus the discussion in each of these sub-fora on their particular issues, right? And of course, we also had a general public forum, for the general public and to address the overarching issues, right? So in regards to our desired outputs, well, we were looking to address those issues going in. We had some success in terms of increasing public awareness, and I suppose in letting our ISPs know how serious we were about addressing those issues. And we also did get the discussion started. But that first go around, we found quite a bit of reluctance from the ISPs to discuss their part in improving the state of things, no? But that was our first go around. Since then, we've had some follow-up on it. But before I get into that, also the legal and judiciary forum also produced very helpful discussions. We had people from the Attorney General's, from his ministry present. We had the Solicitor General present. So he was able to speak on the current state of things, what laws need to be implemented. As a regulator, I can say I was focusing more on what I would have wanted in terms of evidence gathering, what my internet service providers would need to, what kind of information they need to preserve so that when the authorities come, they can hand it over. So that was my focus. But there were other issues as well that aren't being dealt with. So in Belize, I believe our obscene publications law doesn't cover something like when someone puts up a photograph on Facebook of someone else, right? In a compromised position. Huh? So we were looking at specific things like that. But my main focus as a regulator was on evidentiary things, admissibility, and about securing the integrity of any information that would eventually be passed on from my ISPs to the authorities, right? Right, so coming out of the discussion, focusing again on regulation, we earmarked the formation of what we call CSERTs, incident recovery teams, right? So as far as that goes, our approach coming out of it was to look about forming not one CERT but many CERTs, perhaps CERTs within CERTs, so that there could be like an elevation depending on how serious our problem was. So we were looking at forming a government level CERT just for ISPs, and encouraging certain, like say for example, private sectors to form their own CERTs, right? So we've had about 2 or 3 meetings regarding those task forces. Well, one task force for all of them right now, to form those CERTs, and we have also had meetings with our ISPs to continue the discussion. Like I said, when we first had the discussion, they were not willing to discuss it at all, but we brought it up again in follow-up meeting, again, private meeting behind closed doors, away from the public, very confidential, and we were able to get information from ISPs on how many attacks they were having, what kind of attacks they were having, how often they were having them, right? So we did an anonymous poll, right? So we got that information, and at the end of the meeting, we were able to pinpoint the 2 major areas that needed improving in Belize, and those were implementing DNSSEC and implementing IPv6, right? Right now, so they have indicated reluctance with both of them. I think it comes down to they are not sure how to go about implementing them, and also they're looking at the costs involved, right? So our plan right now is to have some workshop, perhaps in the next 30 days, to do some capacity building amongst our ISPs, right, as far as that goes, right? And then also internally now, Belize as a whole, we need to also increase our understanding, some capacity building as regards dealing with these kind of threats. So Belize has recently sent 3 people to do cybersecurity training with the OAS. So we're hoping that we're able to keep the momentum going forward, no? So yeah, that's where we are right now, I believe.
Okay. Thank you very much, Justin. Justin,
if I could add one thing, and Bevel here was very helpful in the entire process, actually.
All right, good.
Yes.
Justin won't be available tomorrow morning when we get taking the various reports from the regional fora. So I decided it would probably make sense to try to at least hear from him this afternoon. So it was cybersecurity. It was focused on cybersecurity, and it did involve multiple groups from judiciary, from ISPs, and so on in the discussions. And I think going forward, they would be seeking to, I guess, formulate and sustain an internet governance forum, in the traditional sense. So that is very good to know. On the agenda, the session is supposed to be dealing with cybersecurity, threats, risks, and protective measures. And we'll have 2 speakers there, Mr. Shernan Osepa and Bevel Wooding. Shernan was introduced this morning. He's the regional manager for regional affairs, Latin America and the Caribbean for ISOC. And so I'll invite Shernan first to come to give his part of the presentation, and then we'll introduce Mr. Bevel Wooding. So back to Shunan. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm not allowed to say thanks to you.
Yeah, we were having people introduce themselves and someone
Okay.
moved in, so I'll give her the opportunity.
Ria Yoching, Executive Director of the Covella Foundation.
Civil society. Civil society.
Yes, thank you very much, Nigel. Can I get a presentation, please? So basically what we're going to do this afternoon, we're going to focus on cybersecurity. Everybody's talking about cybersecurity nowadays, so I would like to give like an overview what is cybersecurity, and I think it's very important how can we, let's say, address the challenges that we are facing. So give you an overview of cybersecurity threats and discussions, and then how we can, let's say, address all the challenges. And together with my good friend Bevel Wooding, so he will be highlighting basically what we have done, although Justin did mention it already, but in Belize, but also what are the plans, let's say, for other jurisdictions. We believe that what was done in Belize is a very good model that can be replicated, let's say, elsewhere in the Caribbean. So that is why we would like to use that as a point of departure. So I already spoke this morning about internet society, so I'm not going to focus much more on that. I'll highlight what we call these three internet operational layers. This is very important because it gives us a point of departure what we are talking about. And then I'll be focusing on the cybersecurity threats that we're seeing out there and what we call themes and solutions and collaborative security. So this is how all of us can give a contribution to, let's say, to address cybersecurity challenges. And there will be possibility for you to ask questions as well. I already spoke about internet society. So this is one of the slides. You may see it in different versions. I think Nigel did highlight it this morning as well. But this is a very, although, I mean, at least I believe it is a very important slide for us to understand what we are talking about. Because nowadays, as I give, let's say, the examples many times, if you ask someone what is the internet, most people would answer things such as Facebook, right? But the internet goes beyond Facebook. Facebook is a very powerful application, but it is and remains an application. So we need to see in what context we are talking about. So first of all, we need to have a telecommunication infrastructure. We did speak about this morning already. And then we go to the next level where we have what we call the domain name system, which is based on, and all the protocols on which the internet, the technical infrastructure of the internet is based on the TCP protocol. And finally, on the highest level, where we as human beings interact with the internet, here you find the content and application layer. So here you find the Facebook, the Google, the Twitter, and so on and so on. We may be having one, let's say, one cybersecurity challenge, maybe on the application layer. And people might think that this is something that has to do, for example, on the domain name system layer or on the infrastructure layer. So that is why this slide is very important. It gives us a point of departure what we are talking about. Okay, let's talk a bit on cybersecurity. Basically, cybersecurity is part of wider, let's say, internet governance discussions. And I think I did mention this morning as well, with respect to access, for example. Globally, We already spoke about this. We have the infrastructure, legal, economic, development, social, cultural, human rights, and security is one of the discussions within internet governance space. There are a few definitions out there with respect to cybersecurity. I think we can use this one in yellow. Cybersecurity refers to preventive methods to protect information from being stolen, compromised, or attacked in some other way. So we see three main concepts here. We see information being stolen, compromised, or attacked. And something else, we need to be careful not to penalize. I think that's the exact word. Let's say the internet. The internet is just neutral. It's just like a knife. You know, a knife is neutral. You can use it for bad. You can do it for good things. You can use it to just cut, let's say, your bread, for example. But you can, or not, you can. I mean, others are using it maybe to kill someone, you know? So, but the knife on itself is something very neutral. And this is exactly the same thing with the internet. The internet is neutral. It can be used for good things, but it can also be used for bad things. When we talk about cybersecurity, we need to classify, let's say, the issues, or we can classify them according to three criteria. For example, the first one is the type of action. So here we look at the action that is taking place. For example, data interception or interference, illegal access, spyware, data corruption, sabotage, denial of service, identity. So here we're looking at the action taking place. We can also look at the type of perpetrator. So here we're looking at the human being committing, let's say, the act. So here we can talk about, for example, criminals, anarchists, hackers, and you name them all. Revolutionaries, terrorists, secret services, defense, military, and also sometimes governments. So all of them can be engaged in these kind of things. So here we're looking at the kind, at the human being committing the act. And the third criteria is type of target. Sometimes a target is just an individual person. So he or she has given information that you would like to get access to. It could be also a private company. It could be civil society organization. It could be, let's say, media entities, public institutions, governments, and critical infrastructure. With critical infrastructure, we're referring, for example, most of the times at, let's say, your power and water supply, for example. But, for example, within a bank industry, critical infrastructure is access to their network. So we need to map, let's say, cybersecurity issues according to these three criteria. And now let's take a look at the threats that we are seeing out there. One of the threats that we are seeing out there is what we call malicious software, malware. Whenever you have a given, let's say, application that is running on your system, and neither you nor your system administrator, for example, did install that particular software, we can assume that we are talking about a malicious software. Because if it's on your system and no one, I mean, at least those who are supposed to manage your system, they didn't install it, why is it on your system? So we can be talking about a malicious software. And as I did mention before in the previous slide, there are some reasons why people are doing these kind of things, type of action, for example, those that I already mentioned. We have seen one, and for example, ransomware is also one of the developments that we are seeing nowadays, but it's part of the malicious software. People are becoming smarter. Back then, I mean, you still may find people, for example, trying to rob a bank, but that's a very, how do you say that, foolish thing to do, right? Because because the police can kill you, you know. So why are you going to risk your life? I'm not promoting other things, but I'm just seeing what we are observing. So why are you going to risk your life, try to rob a bank? The police can kill you. I mean, we have they have surveillance cameras all over the place. So why are you doing that? So people are much more smarter nowadays. They know that, for example, data, and later on I will be talking a bit more on that, is very dear or could be very dear to someone. So if I just keep your data hostage, yes, and then I know that's very dear to you, then just let you pay me to get your data back, and that's the ransom. So these are the approaches that we are seeing nowadays. We have seen a few lately, like WannaCry and some others, but this is the way, the smart way how these hackers are operating nowadays. And we are talking about very knowledgeable people. I know, for example, in a given country, I'm not going to mention names because I have good friends there as well. Most of these people, we're talking about PhD in computer science. And most of them are PhD. You have a lot who are, for example, master's degrees in computer sciences, and a few maybe bachelor. So so that you can get an idea what we are talking about. And given that maybe it's difficult for them to get a job in their own country, of course they need to continue earning a living, and they do what they can do best, and this is just to use their skills to earn their money. Another threat that we are seeing is what is called the botnets, and I think this is one of the most dangerous ones, because when it comes to botnets, you may have a perpetrator, for example, in your system, and you're not aware that he or she is within your system. You know, it's very scary. For example, if you know that there is someone in your house and you don't know that, right? If it is walking out of, he or she is walking outside there, okay, you know that person is walking outside there. But if he or she is in your house and you don't know that, that's a very scary thing. And this is exactly what they are doing. Some of these perpetrators have been in networks for years, gathering all the information basically that they want. And administrators sometimes don't even know that these people have been within their systems. Another threat that we are seeing is what we call the denial of service. And basically, denial of service is flooding a computer or website with requests for information, preventing them functioning properly. You guys also can, let's say, apply, for example, a denial of service on my person. While I'm speaking here, if all of you started to ask me questions, give a moment, I cannot answer. And this is the same thing happening with denial of service. And again, there are a few reasons why these are being done. But what I'm trying to do now is to give you, let's say, explain a bit what are the threats, and later on we will be focusing a bit more how we can address these challenges. Another threat that we are seeing, and especially within the social engineering arena or environment, is what we call phishing. And especially when you're dealing with help desk, for example, people are much more eager to answer questions. If you call a help desk and you need, for example, assistance, they tend to help you because that's their job. And those perpetrators, hackers or whatever you may call them, they, in addition to know, let's say, technology quite well, they are well acquainted with the physiological aspects of human being as well. I've seen, for example, an example whereby a lady called one of these, I think you guys have seen it as well, it's online, called help desk, and she had her little daughter crying in the background. So, I mean, it seems like, given that little girl was crying, it seems like the mother was a bit like nervous, you know. And of course, when you're talking with the help desk, the person trying to assist you, she would assume, it was a she in this case, she would assume, okay, this mother has a problem, she has a baby crying, you know, so let me help her as quickly as I can, you know. So without thinking that this particular lady is trying to fool you, you know. And this is exactly what happened. This lady called the help desk and got all the information that she wanted to get just by letting her, not her, a cassette record. Yes, crying in the background and fool that whole system. We have seen, for example, what we call the e-scams as well, a lot in the Caribbean as well. I'm not mentioning, again, I'm not mentioning countries. Are you there, Carlton? I'm just saying hi to Carlton. Yes, we have seen in the Caribbean a lot of e-scams going on as well. And for example, in one Caribbean island, it was only after, for example, the minister himself, let's say, not website, email was hacked, that they got involved into cybersecurity. Before that, they didn't care because it was something happening elsewhere. So, and we have seen, for example, each year they are having, let's say, a cybersecurity event in this this country as well, whereby we from the Internet Society are giving a contribution as well. Another, okay, these are basically, you can continue having, let's say, different versions of them, but generally speaking, these are the main threats that we're seeing. I think later on, Bevel maybe will be focusing on some others as well. But what I would like to focus now on is, okay, we know that these threats exist. So what can be done to solve, let's say, the challenges that we are facing? And I think this is very important. Cybersecurity themes, it's a very broad area. But whenever you want to address, let's say, cybersecurity discussions, we believe that if you focus on these, let's say, 8 areas, in one way or the other, you will be addressing, let's say, cybersecurity challenges in a given country. Yes, I'm going to go into yes. I'm just reading them out, but I'll be focusing a bit more on them as well. The first one is securing the link, and I'll explain later on what is securing the link. Securing the telecommunication infrastructure, securing what we call the internet, securing computers or smart devices, securing applications, securing data, securing identity, and securing essential services. Most of the times, or maybe I should not say most of the times. I mean, I have seen, for example, national cybersecurity strategies whereby they are focusing on 1 or 2 areas. For example, on securing data, securing applications. But what about securing the link? What about securing the telecommunication infrastructure? What about securing the internet itself? You know, what about securing essential services? So if we would like to have a holistic approach to cybersecurity challenges, then we need to focus on all these 8 areas. Let's start with securing the link. If you look at the internet, when it was designed, for example, it was designed in a closed environment. We had back then, let's say, people from academia, researchers. So they did trust each other. They were in a trusted environment. For example, if it's only, let me see, me and Jacqueline, for example, living on an island, beautiful island of St. Lucia, for example, the only 2 of us, Jacqueline and myself. There is no reason for us or for me in this particular case, to put a lock on the front door of our house. It is only the two of us living on the island. Yes, yes, yes. But if I know that Carlton too can have access to that island, then I'll put a lock on my front door. You understand? And if I know if Albert could be there, I'll be even putting maybe bars, you know? So that's the same thing with the internet. When it was created, there was no need to focus on security because it was developed in a closed environment. All these people, Vincer, Bob Ken, all of them, they knew each other quite well, so there was no reason to focus on security. But nowadays, others have found their way to the internet. And that is why we need to secure what we call the link. The internet is the business of packets, be it, let's say, voice, data, internet traffic itself, doesn't matter, because all this information is being divided into packets. So the internet, in fact, is the business of transporting, let's say, packets from one network to the other. So what we need to do is to ensure that we can protect these packets and ensure that others don't have access to these packets. And we can use several what we call encryption strategies to, let's say, to protect the packets. The other one is securing the telecommunication infrastructure itself. Remember, we cannot have internet without having telecommunication infrastructure. Be it wired, wireless, satellite communication, we need to have a telecommunication infrastructure. And a couple of months ago, I was on another Caribbean island, and basically I could just, let's say, touch, I know I'm tall, but I could just touch, let's say, the telecommunication infrastructure. So if I'm able to do that, someone else can do that as well, you know, and commit, let's say, sabotage against that whole telecommunication infrastructure. So the telecommunication infrastructure is very important for us to secure that as well. And not only, let's say, the switches, let's say, in nice buildings, but the infrastructure out there, the cables that we are seeing out there need to be protected as well. We have to secure the internet itself. And when we are talking about the internet, we are not talking about securing Facebook. Facebook, again, is an application. We are talking about securing the infrastructure of the internet itself. And the internet consists out of two main, let's say, components. The first one is the domain name itself, of which Albert will be speaking later on a bit more on that. And we have the routes. For example, the names, if I'm going, for example, the domain name wooding.tt, for example, I don't want to land up at ria.com, you know? And that is why we need to secure the domain names. And there is what you call a DNSSEC, of which Albert will be speaking later on, how we can, let's say, secure the names to ensure that whenever I'm going to, or at least want to go to bevel.tt, I don't end up at ria.com, for example. In addition to names, another very important components at the internet is what we call the routes. You may have that whole spaghetti thing over there, but in fact, that's the way how it is in reality. You have, remember, the internet is networks of networks, all interconnected. So you need to find a way how you can interconnect all these networks. And here we talk about the routes. I'm not familiar with the BVI, for example, but I can imagine if you're going from this town to another town, then you're going to use a given route. And that's the same thing with the internet. When I'm going from this network, let's say this town, to another town, then we need to be sure that there is no, let's say, hijacking when I'm going on that to my new destination. And here we can, there are a few technologies that can be used, RPKI as well, that especially the RIRs, Cavon and Bevel, LACNIC and Erin, this particular case are focusing on. So by focusing on names and routes, then we can secure the internet itself, the global internet infrastructure. And of course, we need to secure our computers and smart devices. Basically, I'm not sure if we're going to talk about Internet of Things, but maybe tomorrow, right? Okay, that's okay. Basically, the internet that we're using nowadays is called the Internet of People, because at the end of the day, we would like to connect people. And our computers, smart devices, these are just, let's say, an interface between, let's say, between us and the internet. So that is why we are using the computers, because we need something in between in order for us to get access to the internet. This is what we call Internet of People. Basically, what we're doing right now, Internet of People. When you have, let's say, devices, objects, and others, machines, whatever, communicating, let's say, directly to each other, then we go in another environment, and this is what we call the Internet of Things. So now we're not talking about people interacting with people through, for example, a computer, whatever, but we are talking about devices or machines communicating with each other directly. And given that you're on your machine, your computer, your smart device, whatever, people can get access to your data. That is why you need to protect your computer as well. And again, there is like 20 ways or even more how you can protect your computer. But focus of my presentation, we need to, especially if you like to have a national cybersecurity strategy, these are components that we need to embed into the wider strategy as well. We need to secure applications. All of us on a daily basis are using a lot of applications. It depends maybe what you're doing, but in one way or the other, we are using applications. For example, email is one application. There are a few other applications here that are shown on this graph, for example. And for example, this is a slide of 2016 where you can see just in 60 minutes, sorry, 60 seconds. Yeah, thanks. In 1 minute, basically, how all these applications are being used. We can see, for example, it's not that clear, right? Yes, it's not that clear. Okay, it's not sharp. Okay, but in any case, you can see, for example, Google just in 1 minute, in 60 seconds, you had like 2.8 million searches, for example, if I'm not mistaken. Yes. Yes, 2.8 million. 20-point-something million WhatsApp messages. Yes, 20.8 million WhatsApp messages just in one minute, in 60 seconds. And if I just look around in this room, seeing all these people on their smart devices, I think this is true, right? I found something very interesting last week when I was in Haiti, because when I mentioned the Uber thing, Uber is also here. I think 1,000 something. Let's say Uber uses in 1 minute. And they explained to me that in Haiti right now, they have a kind of Uber version, for example. It's called Vroom Vroom. Is that the way how when you start a car, right? It sounds like vroom, you know? Yeah. So those of you who are familiar with Haiti, for example, they have a lot of these taxi bikes. You know, you see all these small motorcycles, but they're using them as taxi. And someone came with a bright idea of having their own Uber-like vroom system, where people can, just get access to Uber-like services. And this, for me, was a very great idea because Haiti has around 8 or 10 million people, and if you just look in part of Prince, not part of Spain, but part of Prince, if you see the number of all these taxis out there, it's amazing. So they have all this system there working, and they're earning something out of it. So again, applications, that's very important. We need to secure them in one way or the other. Data, for example, this is the most important thing. And I just found this, or did experience this, like 2.5 weeks ago. Was somewhere else again, in Panama this time. And something happened with my phone. And I could not access my phone. And I became very, very nervous, especially for one particular reason. Those of you who know me a bit better, and we have a better relationship, if you can call it like that. Like 7 weeks ago, my father passed away. And I have on my phone, just like 10 days before he passed away, I had like a conversation with him. And I have his voice there, and I don't have this, or I didn't have it back then, stored anywhere else. So I almost cried while I was in Panama, because at the end, my phone started to work again. So I have that information, and it stores somewhere else. But then I realized how important data is. And I mean, if it's something, maybe just a picture, I can come here again, take another picture. That's okay. And this is the same. This is the same way that hackers are using, because they know how sensitive and valuable, let's say, a given data is for a particular person. And by just keeping your data, let's say, hostage in this case, and to ask you to pay something for it, it's a very criminal activity, And basically, there is no, how do you call that? There is no feeling with respect to this. They're just making, how do you call it, misuse of your particular situation. And okay, given in my case, for example, if this was like a ransomware, given that I wanted to at least hear my father's voice again, okay, you will pay what they're asking you, So, but data is very, very important. I would like to say welcome to Mr. Sebastian Belagamba. Those of you who do not know, he's my boss. So welcome, Sebastian. So data is very, 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 very important. And nowadays we are seeing, for example, big business when it comes to data. We have out there, for example, what we call all these data warehouses, where they are collecting data. And the main business of these organizations are to collect data, because they know they can earn a lot of money when it comes to data. And where are they getting all these data? They're getting them from us. So whenever you go on the internet and you're clicking on everything, basically, in fact, you are giving authorization to all these organizations to get access to your data. And for example, if you are, if you want to buy, for example, a new car, for example, in my case, let me use my example. If I go to, for example, online, I will get some offers from maybe from Toyota, from Hyundai, et cetera, because already a profile has been created from this particular person. So they know this lady or this guy, he or she can afford, let's say, a Toyota or Hyundai, et cetera, But if my boss, for example, given that I'm here, if he would like to buy a new car, And then I'm sure he will start getting some offers from Mercedes-Benz, from BMW, you know, because already an offer, a profile has been created from all the searches that you're doing online. So again, data is very, very important, and we need to find ways how to protect these. Securing identity. Whenever you go online, we leave, let's say, traces behind. And this is a scary thing with the internet, because we are clicking on everything, but a very detailed profile is being created from each one of us. And based on that profile, they can use it, I mean, for good, for example, but they can use it for other things as well. For example, for direct marketing, we see nowadays, for example, with the example that I gave previously, they know, for example, Mr. Wooding, a profile has been created from him. So he will start receiving direct offers, let's say from organizations or from people who like to buy the stuff out there. So if he is trying, for example, as I mentioned, for example, to buy a car, or maybe it could be something else, a shoe or whatever, he will get offers from all the providers out there, because they already know he can afford a given amount of money. So identity is also something very important that we need to focus on. We need to protect our identity. It's amazing nowadays how people are posting everything on Facebook, you know? And later on, you're wondering, okay, how is it possible that people knew this and knew that? But we are providing them with the information. I mean, I'm here in the BVI for work. Okay, I mean, given that we have Twitter and all these kind of things, people would know that I'm here. But if I'm going on vacation, there is no need for me to tell the whole world that for the next 2 weeks, I will not be at home. You understand? There is no need to do that. Maybe when you come back for your vacation, you can say, okay, I was on vacation, we had a very nice vacation. Okay, that's fine, and you can post a few pictures. Especially if you leave your family behind or whatever. I mean, okay, if you go on vacation, most of the time you go with family, okay? But if you go do certain things and you have family at home, and we need to be a bit more carefully. This is basically the message that I would like to leave with you. And of course, we need to secure what we call essential services. And with essential services, we have, for example, the electric grid, for example. Water and gas supply, for example. Nowadays, as I did mention before, you have these hackers, and you may call them what you want. Sometimes it's very fun for them just to show you that your system doesn't work the way it should be working. Maybe they're not trying to get anything out of it, as the case with ransomware. But at least they will show you that, I mean, what you have there is just mess. And I'm going to show you that. So within the, let's say, the wider national cybersecurity strategy, we need to take this into consideration as well, to focus how we can protect, let's say, our essential services. And each country should define for themselves what are the essential services for them. For example, in the case of the British Virgin Islands, I know that you guys are focusing a lot on, let's say, financial sector. Of course, then the financial sector is a critical infrastructure here in the BVI. Within internet society, we have what we call the collaborative security, because we believe that cybersecurity challenges cannot be solved only by one particular stakeholder. Sometimes you see, let's say, governments trying to address certain issues. Sometimes you see, for example, the academia, sometimes, let's say, the business community. So we believe in what we call the collaborative security. All of us need to work together to to solve, let's say, cybersecurity challenges that we are experiencing. And again, the internet is what it is based on collaboration. So we need to use that same model to continue to enhance and to solve, let's say, challenges that we are seeing globally. So with that, I think I did give you, let's say, an overview of the challenges and what can be done for us to address, let's say, these challenges. Thank you, and I think Bevel will be commenting a bit there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Shannon. We'll move right along to the next presenter, Mr. Bevel Wooding, who will continue the cybersecurity theme. And Bevel is a man of many hats. He is the Caribbean Outreach Liaison with the American Registry for Internet Numbers, ARIN. And he works closely with ARIN's community in the Caribbean and is responsible for strengthening and managing ARIN's relationship with the region's technical community, regulators, and governments. He also serves in an advisory capacity to several Caribbean governments and regional institutions, including the OECS, Caribbean Court of Justice, on technology, education, cybersecurity, and the digital economy. And I can add the CTU to that list as well. In his capacity, another capacity as Executive Director of the Caribbean Network Operators Group, he regularly facilitates initiatives to build and support volunteer technical communities dedicated to computer network security, internet governance, critical internet infrastructure development for the Caribbean. So please welcome Mr. Bevel Wooding for his bit.
Thank you, Nigel. Good afternoon, everyone. You're gonna announce the eclipse break?
No, you just go ahead.
Okay, so my presentation will carry us up to the eclipse, and then we'll look at what happens from there. See, so it's already started. So Shannon gave us what I thought was an excellent overview of cybersecurity, the concepts, the types of approaches. What I would like to do with this is to give a sense of the state of cybersecurity, looking at some global trends and then some of the things taking place here in the Caribbean. So the idea is that between the two presentations, you'll get a sense of what are the fundamentals of cybersecurity, and you'll also get a sense of what are some of the real challenges and opportunities that we face as a region. I think it's good for us to start with this, this quote that some of you may have heard, and I certainly would have known. This face has been in the news recently for other reasons, but the quote is very relevant to cybersecurity, and it says there are only two types of organizations, those that have been hacked and those that will be hacked. I think it's an important place for us to begin because it sets everyone's business type underlayer to the message of cybersecurity and why it is important to internet governance and why it is important in particular to Caribbean internet governance. There are several reasons for why things are bad. Shannon didn't get into the what's happening in cybersecurity space, the fact that many Caribbean nations, governments, institutions, and individual citizens have been the victims of some form of cyber crime or some kind of cyber malpractice. And if we consider the fact that as small developing regions, we actually under the same type of attack, same type of pressure, same type of barrage as our better funded, better financed, and in some cases better governed, developed country neighbors, it really shows the priority of coming up with an appropriate, one, perception of what exactly is the state of play, and two, what are some of the things that we can do as a region to help address it. Why is this? So what I would like to do is take a look at a video that kind of points to one of the main reasons why so many of our systems are vulnerable. And if I can just have the if you guys press play on this one, you get a sense of one of the main reasons that so many systems, both here and across the world, are vulnerable to attack. Let's see if we can get this playing.
You know, we've been hearing a lot about cybersecurity lately, largely because of what happened to Sony. Companies and individuals are more concerned about the safety and privacy of their information than ever. President Obama has unveiled a number of new proposals this week to crack down on hackers, and he plans to address this in the State of the Union speech on Tuesday. And it's great that the government is working on this, but the truth of the matter is we need to do a better job of protecting ourselves. You know, the most popular password in the United States is password 123. And as long as that's the case, we're vulnerable. So today we sent a camera out on a Hollywood Boulevard to help people by asking them to tell us their password. And this is how that went.
We're talking about cybersecurity today and how safe people's passwords are. What is one of your online passwords currently?
It is my dog's name and the year I graduated from high school.
Oh, what kind of dog do you have?
I have a Chihuahua Papillon.
And what's its name?
Jameson.
Jameson. And where'd you go to school?
I went to school back in Greensburg, Pennsylvania.
What school?
Hempfield Area Senior High School.
Oh, when did you graduate?
In 2009.
Oh, great.
It's like my cat's name and then just like a random number.
Okay. Have you had this cat for a while?
Yeah, she's my childhood pet.
Aw. And what's her name?
Her name is Jolie.
Jolie. So like a password of yours would be Jolie and then a number.
Yeah.
Like number 1?
Like my birthday.
Oh, when is your birthday?
June 12th.
Oh, nice. And what year were you born?
95.
Oh, great. So Jolie, 6, 12, 95.
Yes.
Got it.
So you mean to give my password right now? No, I cannot do that.
But we all want to know what it is so we can tell you if it's strong or not.
Oh my goodness. Let me think. Okay, one is Tel Aviv. Yeah. 468, and then Israel. It's only 3, but it's, you know, it's for me it's strong enough.
Ireland 1 2 3 4. Gemma 1 2 3. Spelled Gemma.
Well, most of them are Italian.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
Like
so
what? Like what's a good Italian password?
My grandma's name.
What's your grandma's name?
Maria.
Maria. So Maria is your password?
Oh yeah, now you know my password. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, the important thing is they learned a terrible lesson.
You'll get a sense of the ease with which systems can be compromised, right? Yeah. And this is what we have to face at all kinds of levels, whether you're in the general public rank, I'm an end user, or in some cases, as we found out recently with the Director of Homeland Security in the United States email being compromised by a phishing attack, it really doesn't make a difference. Once you're dealing with human beings, systems can be compromised. And for us, in terms of coming up with an appropriate and relevant Caribbean cybersecurity perspective, we have to understand that as the fundamental, but we also have to understand the power of what I'm calling the dark side. Because the threat is real. We are under serious attack. And if you think about the trajectory of things, more dependence being placed on information and communications technology systems, more of our critical services being put online, more of our consumers using and depending on these devices and devices like these to get connected and to do business and to basically take care of life, then it's important to have not just the wonderful field of flowers view of the internet as the thing that changes life for everyone in a positive way. It's also important for us to see what's going on the other side. And as Shunan pointed out, there are many dimensions to cybersecurity, but this is what I want to impress upon you. The cyber criminals of today are highly organized, highly motivated, highly resourced, and highly effective. So when it comes to securing organizations or securing governments or raising awareness among the general public, the issue is knowing your quote-unquote enemy before you can come up with an appropriate or relevant response. And in this case, The dark side forces range from the cyber criminals, and they're broad-based and targeted. They're financially motivated. They're getting increasingly sophisticated. You have hacktivists. Those are people who think that they have a cause worth using the internet and connected technology to their advantage to bring about their message or their particular agenda. They're targeted, they're destructive, they're unpredictable in their motivations, and they're generally less sophisticated, but that is changing as well. You have nation states. On this side of the planet, we hear about the threats from China and the threats from further afield. But if you take a balanced worldview perspective on it, the threats are on all sides. Rich versus poor, advantage versus disadvantage. It is important for us to understand that nation states are also very focused and targeted in how they use cyber weapons, if you will, to, again, advance their own agenda. Motivated by data collection, and we heard a bit about that earlier today in terms of how data that you would give out freely on social media platforms, for example, can and are being used to find out about and direct and shape actions against different targets. And then, of course, you have the insiders, those inside a company who may, for one reason or another, for different forms of motivation, seek to do harm using the networks and using the internet. And in each of these cases, there are examples right here in the Caribbean where you have victims that are either have fallen prey to cyber criminals. There are victims inside of organizations who, for one reason or the other, have compromised corporate networks. You have nation states using the vulnerability of Caribbean information systems to their advantage for commerce or for market growth. And then you have hacktivists, in some cases local and homegrown, defacing websites, generally making themselves an annoyance to governments and corporations. Bottom line is this is expected only to increase as we go forward. So that's the dark side. That's what we face. That's what we're dealing with. For those of you who are into Star Wars and sci-fi, you get where I'm going with this, right? May the force be with you, right? Now, I want to show you this timeline. A lot of these would have made headlines, and you'll increasingly see and hear cyber security and cyber crime coming into mainstream media headlines. But I want you to take a note in this case of the progression. So we had 2013, at that time, the biggest cyber attack, 70 million customers hit by a data breach. People were concerned that credit card information was compromised, and it was a very real and concerning attack at the time. Then in 2014, the Sony attack, some claimed were linked to North Korea. Bottom line is the Sony data servers were compromised, information on actors, their pay, their relationships, scripts, and all of those things came out. And it all at that stage was like, well, if you're a big company and you have valuable data, you're probably going to be a victim of these kinds of attacks. Enter 2015, government data. This was, in this case, the US federal government had a data breach impacting 21.5 million records. And again, from the Caribbean, we could say, well, big government, lots of valuable data there for those who have it out against the US. Not really us. But over the last 2 years in particular, the nature of cyber attacks has changed, starting with a major DNS outage last year. And I remember it was just about the time of a Caribnog meeting, and we had it on the agenda. And the attack was on the internet itself. And it was probing to see, and I don't know if, Albert, are you going to be mentioning that in the DNSSEC a bit? It was probing the very foundations of what makes the internet the internet. And then in 2017, ransomware, which was a technical term for the technical community up until this point, disrupted internet-based services across the planet. And you start to see the trend. In the case of the 2016 DNS attack, the Caribbean was affected by what is called a brownout. People either noticed slowing internet services, and they couldn't blame the telecom providers in this case, or they noticed outright outages. In the case of ransomware, from Belize through Jamaica all the way down to Suriname, we have banks, insurance companies, and governments being told that they have to pay up or else some service, ATM network, insurance data will be compromised. The threat is real, and it is now present. So the thing that makes it difficult for us to track now and to say where would be or who would be the next victim is that the motives are as varied as you can hope for. Some are for profit, some are for shame. Right? I am going to embarrass your government or your minister or your ministry because you've done me something that I have taken offense with. To I can make money off of your slackness in managing your corporate networks or because of your slowness to invest properly in information and communication security capability. So with all of these new threats, what we're recognizing is that it is a lot easier for those who would seek to do harm to cross over to the dark side. And when I say a lot easier, you have to track the increasing costs and increasing effectiveness of cyber attacks is something else that has been taking place. And that is more data on how to attack networks and how to conduct cybercrime is publicly available using that wonderful agnostic tool called the internet. Because as Shannon said, the internet does not care. It is neither good nor bad. How you use it can have good or bad effects. And so there's a lot of data publicly available on how to hack networks, how to compromise without detection. A lot of it came out of a recent CIA data dump that put into the public domain for the first time some of the most sophisticated methods for attacking networks. And then, of course, like everything on the internet these days, you have your distance learning and online learning resources. Rent a Hacker, you have your shared networks, all allowing people who may have intention but not capability to find someone who can help them conduct a cyber attack. As I said earlier, it's important for us to understand the state of play if we have to come up with effective mechanisms for approaching it. What all of this says is, as we proceed under the cover of sun, sea, and sand and smallness, and maybe there aren't sufficient economic interests in the region to warrant the kinds of defensive measures that we're seeing taking place in other environments, the facts say something entirely different. The soft targets are the preferred targets. This is a statement from the OAS. Future attacks will likely increasingly be directed to softer targets in locations through which huge sums of money flow electronically for tax efficiency or for some other kind of competitive advantage. Those areas with infrastructure links to the United States and Europe, and in areas where the success of a sector such as tourism is central to the stability of the regional or national economy. Sounds like anywhere familiar to any of you? All right. These are where future attacks are expected to increasingly be focused on. Places like the Caribbean, places like the BVI. As attacks continue or worsen in frequency and sophistication and focus not just on disrupting critical infrastructure, but also compromising key information that could be used in the future, defenders may soon find themselves short in terms of the support necessary to stave off threats. Lack of funding, unmet desire for government leadership in this area leaves defenders feeling increasingly left on their own. And this is where we are. As a region, there is an acknowledgement that the cyber threat is increasing, but there are some fundamental challenges as it relates to how do we respond? What are the appropriate mechanisms for dealing with this mounting, very real, very present danger that we're upon? So if we had to do a matrix of where the Caribbean is at, it will look something like this. Lack of awareness, check. Insufficient coordination, check. Ostrich syndrome, check. Talent shortage, check. Right. Well, the capacity or the potential for capacity to be raised up in the region is here. So that's why I put it as a talent shortage. The idea is, and the belief is, that we can train enough indigenous resources to meet the cyber threats that we face. But there has to be much better coordination. There absolutely has to be far better collaboration across sectors and across territories. And for us to move to that direction of greater coordination, we have to get our heads out the proverbial sand and recognize the threat for what it is. This is not going to go away if we close our eyes and hope for the best. This is the reasonable extrapolation of all that the internet represents. And so it is in our interest as a region to take a very different approach to how we go about the business of cyber defense. And for that, Justin gave an indication of it. I think for any country that has been involved in cybersecurity, the issues of collaboration, multi-stakeholderism, those things are recurring themes because they're absolutely essential to crafting any kind of reasonable or relevant response. And for us in the Caribbean, so as Nigel said, I represent the Caribbean Network Operators Group with one hat, and have been involved in Caribbean internet infrastructure build-out for some time. And the connection between the two is not always obvious. There's a desire to build out more Caribbean businesses and create more diverse economic opportunities using the internet, but that does not always come with the equivalent sense of urgency to secure said internet-based and internet-connected networks. Now, what we have found is, and there are several persons in the room who are part of this experiment in Belize earlier this year, is the multi-sectoral cyber safety strategy building gives us the best chance for a sustained and coordinated approach. And as Justin indicated earlier, in the case of Belize, earlier this year we held the first national cybersecurity symposium. And what made this event unique was, well, let me start with the objectives and then I'll tell you what we did in terms of the structure. Gain insight into fundamentals of cybersecurity, learn strategies, receive updates, networks. This is how it was pitched to the public. Come to this 1 week long event and you will hear from local players, you will hear from regional players and international players on what is the state of cybersecurity in Belize, in the Caribbean, and across the world. And beyond hearing about it, we will be taking practical steps to securing the national cybersecurity agenda. That was the public pitch that was made. But for us to attract the right kind of audience, we felt it necessary to break the messaging into very specific, almost selfish streams. So there were special fora for the general public, for public sector officers, for regulators, for network operators, for the judiciary, for the legal sector. People who would be accustomed to talking amongst themselves were brought into a common space where they heard what each other had to say and then broke into groups and then went into what was relevant to them and then came back into a task force at the end of the week that highlighted what were the key sectoral priority points. And it was a very effective formula for bringing out the kind of dialogue that is needed. And I would say on the first day, which was called the Cyber Awareness Day, where all of the major actors spoke, and you had, which was a rarity in Belize and I think across the region, on the same platform, Deputy Prime Minister, the Chief Justice, the Attorney General, the National Minister responsible for national security, and a number of international stakeholders, all committing publicly, and this was the key, to get them to commit publicly to working together as a catalyst for getting the persons in the sectors to understand that this was a new day for dealing with cybersecurity issues. And Justin, would you say it was effective in terms of triggering a whole new perspective on what cybersecurity has to, what it means and entails for the Belize stakeholders? Definitely. Let's pull the mic down.
Definitely, but also important is the follow-up, you know, to strike while the iron is still hot.
Right. So, and that was a main message throughout the week. One of the statements made by several of the speakers on the first day that this is not your typical talk shop. The idea is to gather, to develop the highlights and emphases so that an action plan that will inform how each of the sectors proceed can be crafted. And that group has met, I think, 3 times since, and on target for end of December tabling of a national cybersecurity agenda. And this is what the event was intended to do. It was not just to create awareness for the week. It was intended to activate amongst each of the major stakeholder groups a new trajectory for action that could be brought into a national national approach to cybersecurity. And if you heard between the lines with Shunan's presentation and what I'm saying about the nature of the threat that we face, it is impossible for any single sector to say that they're going to tackle cybersecurity by themselves. It is also impossible for any single nation to say that they're going to tackle cybersecurity by themselves. And so what has been done here by putting the Cybersecurity Symposium under the National Internet Governance Forum framework, Belize has made a statement that we want this to be part of a new national conversation about how we use the internet and what attends appropriate, effective, safe internet use, but also what defines safe and secure internet utilization for the vulnerable groups, the young persons, the education institutions that are going online, the critical service providers who are using the internet. Many people who would not know or have the language to even begin addressing how do you stay cyber safe now have a forum to turn to that is nationally available, that involves a lot of trusted stakeholders, and that can, as Justin said, point to very real and very practical approaches. Get the slide back up. So the organizers in this case was the regulator, the Belize Public Utilities Commission, and CARIBNOG, the Caribbean Network Operators Group. The supporting collaborators included the Internet Society. Shunan was there with me on it. The Belize National Security Council, Central IT. I was happy to have support from Carlton. Albert couldn't make this one, but we had ICANN's best wishes and commitment to be part of future cybersecurity events in Belize. The supporting cast included everyone you can think of with an interest, including CARICOM Impacts, the Caribbean's National and Cybersecurity Agency. The US government chimed in, and of course, as I said earlier, the judiciary and the law enforcement, many of whom are having challenges dealing with cyber complaints and cyber crimes on the front lines. So you're a victim of cyberbullying and you go to the police and they tell you, well, take the child off the internet. You are the victim of a cyber theft, your credit card or whatever, and you go to the bank and they tell you, well, that's not their problem. You were reckless in your use of your credit card online. And these are things that are happening across the region right now. And so the recognition was that if we had to start addressing frontline policing or how judges deal with cases that involve some kind of cyber offense, then education and awareness has to be the foundation stone upon which any new approach is built. And this was the structure of the week. Day 1, cyber awareness. Day 2, public forum, business forum, financial services sector forum. Day 3, network operators forum and law enforcement forum. Each of these groups met in open door sessions, but looking at issues relevant to their sector. And day 5, everybody got together to discuss the next steps, which then created the Belize National Cybersecurity Task Force, which is now an official entity that is seeking official national structure and recognition. And this is what we're holding up as a model for other Caribbean countries that are looking to do something deep and structurally different in terms of how we tackle cybersecurity and cybercrime. We expect law enforcement to continue to do their part in their silo, but from a national standpoint, there has to be a much more coordinated and much more collaborative approach. The bottom line is resistance is not futile. As serious as the threats are, as real as the dangers are, as sophisticated as the attackers are, there is great value in having a structured, coordinated, multi-stakeholder approach. There's a role for government. There is a role for civil society. There's a role for law enforcement. And so it's very important that we all press forward together as we tackle the issue of Caribbean cyber security. Thank you.
Well, thanks very much to Shannon and Bevel for the presentation this afternoon. I think it was well structured in terms of us understanding the scope of what we're talking about, and it presented quite a good example of what sort of action can be taken based on the Belize experience. Now, if you look at your provisional agenda, you will see that our scheduled break was at 3, but I'll stretch that to 3:30 so that you can use your break to also take a little eclipse break, because that'll be a better time for viewing. So get your glasses ready for around that time. So we'll take a little time for you all to...
Is the CIGF providing us with glasses?
to take some questions from the audience.
Okay. Thank you very much, Nigel, and thanks to all of the speakers, Kevin Swift from LACNIC, but of course, a Caribbean internet user, and to put my comment into context, second-time cyber attack victim as recent as a couple of days ago.
Okay.
That's to give some context. Bevel, Justin, Sean, and I really appreciate your presentations. And I wanted to go back to the listing that you were doing, Bevel, about what we need in the region to ensure that we have this environment, this collaborative environment for cybersecurity. I would say in a past life, I was also involved or familiar with another place that actually took quite a multi-stakeholder approach to building out their cybersecurity and building out approaches or building out measures to mitigate cyber attacks. But of course, Jacqueline mentioned a point earlier that dealt with organizational behavior and organizational culture. And she said that we are so close, it's easy for us to be able to understand and speak to other sectors, which isn't something that you see in other regions. I would say, however, that also has an impact on the activities that we do here. Because what I have seen is that when a community, a national community, gets together and begins working on an issue, if one of those actors happen to have a falter of some kind, let's say they fall down, let's say there's a change, a fundamental change to one of those actors, the entire initiative seems to be affected. So you lose momentum, and you therefore see that it's very hard to recuperate and to maintain activity for cybersecurity. I think my assumption is that until we have more data and systems becoming digital in the Caribbean, it would still be somewhat difficult to maintain that momentum. But how do you ensure that you maintain momentum, you maintain that collaborative approach when one of those actors in your close-knit community is severely affected by a change?
Okay, first of all, I think it's very important if we can identify, let's say, what is going on in a given country. And basically, you don't need, let's say, much people to, let's say, to bring a lot of changes in a given community. 1 or 2 people, persons, can do a lot. So I think it's very important if we can identify, let's say, a given project, because you need to maintain people, let's say, engaged in activities, not for the sake of maintaining them engaged, but if you would like to solve or address a given challenge in a given country, it's very important that we can, let's say, identify a given project and make persons, let's say, responsible for that particular, let's say, project. One of the things, for example, we are doing at Internet Society is to focus on, let's say, the local chapters. Because when you have, they know the local situation in the country, and they know all the details going on. So if we can have one of our members, in this particular case, who is also a member of the community, and he or she, let's say, knows the details in a given country, and by working with all stakeholders, then we can, let's say, at least solve or address, let's say, the challenges. I know by experience as well that, I mean, sometimes as soon as we leave a place, of this place or any other event, we will forget what we have been discussing, let's say, during all these days. So that is why you need to make people responsible, make them, give them, let's say, activities, make them responsible for a given project. And I think by doing that, we can at least see some developments in a given country. So I would say, okay, make them responsible, identify a concrete issue in a given country, and then work on that. As we have seen in the case of Belize, and also, for example, in Jamaica, and some other Caribbean islands as well, if they didn't have a concrete challenge in their country, then we would have never seen any cybersecurity activity going on in that particular country. This is the case with Belize, and that's in the case with Jamaica as well. So again, I'm just repeating here, make persons, let's say, responsible, identify a concrete, let's say, project where we can, let's say, bring some changes in that particular country, and together with our chapters and others as well in that community, I think we can address the challenge.
If I could just add to what Shernan was saying, I think it's very important that you identify the right champion. You don't want to have someone holding the reins who you are not sure where they're going to be at in a year or two. No, so you in Belize's case, the Public Utilities Commission is an autonomous body. No, so it is not quite in the position government might be in, where when there's an election you can say, well, there's new government in and we're not sure what's going to happen with that sort of thing. No, there's a bit of stability there, and also this project is not happening around that time of what you said, that cycle where you say, okay, there's going to be some general election soon and you don't know what's happening. No. So it's being started at a good time. And coming back to identifying the champion, the utility regulator is in a good position with regards to the relationship it has with its licensees, no? So for what we were identifying as the issues in Belize, the utility regulator was perhaps in the best position to try and achieve some kind of result there. Remember, we're talking about improving the quality of cybersecurity standards in the country, bringing in regulatory changes or larger legal changes, no? So I think that's where you have to start, and then you have to keep up a pace. You have to constantly set targets and follow-up meetings. So you want to set a target that you know you can accomplish within a short period of time, and you quickly work for it, and then you go to the next hurdle after that. But you have to keep the momentum going in that kind of way, no?
Any others? Oh, yes, go Rudy.
I just wanted to say that I was really captivated by those three presentations. I think Jason Barrow, I think...
Justin,
sorry. Justin, when you started talking about Belize, I suddenly remembered some conversations I had a few weeks ago about the fact that everybody thinks that data is data. And I said, you know something, we're going to start thinking about different kinds of data. You know, it's not just about data, you know. I mean, you have individual data, you have government data, you have community data, you have institutional data, you have sensory and environmental data. And I've added sensory and environmental at the bottom because we still are not bringing in, at this point in time, the Internet of Things, which is sensory and environmental data. I think that's very important. And I think with each of that, when you look at data in that way, then countries have to start to have policy scenarios for each kind of data. And at the moment, we tend to have, like I'm in a small country, we tend to have a single provider, one or two providers, who provide everything. You know, infrastructure, data, this and that. But if you look at the fact that we are producing masses and masses of different kinds of data, we also have to have policies for how we treat that data. So if you decide to move into e-health, you really have to have some very strong policies on what you're going to do with your patient records, for example. Governments in themselves, governments have data which they are happy to let everybody know what the data is all about. The Open Data Initiative right now, for example, I think Jamaica has a very good one started out. There's other kinds of data that governments have that really should not be in the public domain, right? And I said to a minister a few weeks ago, you know something? You are the ICT minister for a country that basically has all its data in one basket. Yeah? You have a single provider. So therefore, what happens when that what happens to the data when that provider has all the data and he can do with it whatever he wants to, right? So you really have to look at that. I was also captivated by Bevel's. Yeah, it was just great to see the three of you come together, because that for me is collaboration. You know, and I think it's a great example of how we can.
We also have about three people waiting in limited time, okay?
Yeah.
So collaborate.
But the other thing is you collaborate. But the other thing is that ransomware. You can Google ransomware. You know, any one of us here can pick up some ransomware and deal with it. It doesn't take, you know, a couple of hours or a half a day to figure out how to use it, right? So it's very important. So it's security, cybersecurity is everybody's business. And for my part, I will be teaching all 14 to 18-year-olds, you know, in schools, you know, about cybersecurity and how to hack. You know, because by the time they get good enough, we already know exactly who they are, you know.
That's why I think Shannon laying out the 8 areas was so important and useful, right? And
well, I think Shannon, when he mentioned all those locks, little locks, Jacqueline's locks, I was wondering who has the keys.
At least we should be sure that you don't get it.
It has been a thing in the States. I mean, for example, you know, we talk about the encryption, and then various governments want access to those encryption keys at whatever level, you know. So.
Yeah. I had a hand on the left, or 2 hands on the left. Oh. Deirdre, and I saw Deirdre, I saw Sebastian. Go ahead, he'll put it on. It's switched off, apparently.
Deirdre Williams from St. Lucia. Bevel, that was great. I wish you'd come to St. Lucia and do the same thing. However, one of the difficulties seems to me to be the fact that you get the people at the top, like the Chief Justice and the Deputy Prime Minister, and you get the techies. Most people in this room are probably techies, but you don't get the middle management people who are actually on the battlefield. Very quick story. I went to the bank a week ago to do something through the ATM, and the machine, it did the first transaction. Did I want to do something else? I said yes. It asked me for my password again. So I took my card out and came away, because I'd heard something that I didn't really completely remember, that one way of hacking ATMs is to do this thing with getting your password twice. I don't know how it works or if it works. Went into the bank. Same thing happened, but the bank is active. So I go and find somebody eventually, a middle management person. He said, oh, that happened to me with my card the other day. I said, didn't you ask the IT people? Oh, the IT man is on leave. Now, that horrifies me. I'll tell you the name of the bank if you like, because I understand that banks lose a great deal of money and don't tell anybody about it because they're afraid of their reputations. I can see why they lose the money. How do we get the middle managers who are there? Thank you.
Well, maybe I can comment on that. I consider myself middle management. And, well, the way I went about it, again, and I suppose I'm in a good position as utility regulator, is I compelled my licensees to attend a meeting with me. So I locked them all in a room and I didn't let them out until they told me something useful. No? I don't know if everyone is in that kind of a position, but then I also I do speak to my peers, so I don't call the Attorney General unnecessarily, but I do know the Solicitor General, so I may give him a call. You know, so it does help when you network a bit and you do know these people, but also it helps if you're in the sort of position where you can perhaps twist the arm a little bit if you have to.
Please come and lock up the people in my bank.
Bevel?
Yeah, I just want to just build on that same point in response, Deidre. The reason that we did the structure in the way that we chose was because we wanted to have both the top-down and bottom-up at the same time, and it sandwiched middle management perfectly, because you had, as Justin said, you had people capable of saying, I need you to come to this or else. So he got the ISPs out, the Chief Justice got the entire judicial bench out, the Minister of National Security got all of the necessary captains of, I'm saying captains not in their official title, but all of the relevant personnel from the Defense Force out, ditto for the Commissioner of Police. So in that room, for that week, and of course, as they realized what kind of structure we had and the fact that we were very serious about coming up with an actionable plan, the numbers increased as the week went along. But that deals with people who can be commanded to come. The other aspect of what made the symposium structure effective in my mind was the general public then seeing the media coverage and understanding that the right people who normally would not participate in such talk shops were present. They came out and ventilated because they had the opportunity to. This is what I see as wrong with how you are treating with my bank card and with when I have queries about why my money has disappeared or how my child has been treated when they went to the police to report on something. You had all of the right people in the right place. And I think for anyone considering a national cyber security type event, it is important to have these assurances that if you are present, there is some redress for the things that are important to you. Because we saw this with the roadshow as well. What creates some of the apathy or some of the cynicism is that people don't feel that there is any genuine interest in changing the status quo. And so it was important for us from the onset to ensure that that strong message that this is for real and that the intention and objective here is to actually derive not just a document, but a workable multi-sectoral action plan that will touch on the issues that are important to each of the stakeholder groups would come out of the gathering. And so to put a conclusion to my response to your question, if any country wants to do it, they have to have that same level of multi-sectoral commitment for it to be effective. What we did wasn't an event. The expressions of support and participation and partnership weren't courtesy. They were serious commitments from each of the stakeholder groups. And it took us months to get to that point where we knew if we put them on a stage, they would say the right things. And so that same kind of groundwork and background diplomacy would also have to happen for any other territory seeking to do something like this.
Just a comment. I mean, we did have some discussions going on, or we have had some discussions going on with ECTEL as well. But as you may know, ECTEL has a new leadership now. So basically, we need to start all discussions all over again. But the thing is, it's not about us trying to organize an event in a given country or jurisdiction. It's about challenges that we are seeing in a country. And I'm not saying that they are the one that should contact us first. I'm not saying that. But at least if you don't have, let's say, the local commitment based on real life experiences, nothing would happen. So that is why it's quite important for whenever we go to a given country, there should have been some groundwork and some developments going on before if we would like to be successful in that country.
Sebastian?
Thank you very much. I really like the 4 things that you put in the screen, Bevel, about the lack of awareness, the lack of talent, the third one, and the ostrich syndrome, which relates to the reputation thing that Deidre was mentioning recently. And I think that's the key issue to tackle, the ostrich syndrome. I mean, the other ones are consequence. I mean, are going to be solved as a consequence of realizing that we have an issue, we have a problem, yes. and start publicizing the issues that we have. I think that is key. Let me try to gather a message of hope too, because I mean, generally these cybersecurity panels are dark, the dark side of the of everything. You can see the half of the glass empty or full. I mean, and as in I use the analogy of the cars. I mean, cars are good. I mean, no one can doubt that cars are good. I mean, we are better off since the invention of the car than we were yesterday. Before that, but cars produce accidents, kill people. It's used in robberies. Terrorism are using cars recently. So those are downsides of a good thing. So let's try to look at the half full of the glass. Let's try to have a look at the internet as something that is not bringing us more problems than the one we had before, sorry, but as an opportunity. If we don't look at this as an opportunity, we're going to end up just in a cathartical talk about all the bad things that are happening because of the internet. But we are not realizing that the potential of the internet at the meantime, and all the capabilities that the internet has in order for the betterment of our people. And that's the key. I mean, what we have to focus is how we make our societies better, how we use this as a tool for making our societies better. Thank you.
Okay. I'll let Bevel have the last word.
Oh no, this is not a last word type comment. Just in response to that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, just wanted to indicate that the part of how you deal with the ostrich syndrome is unfortunately through shock and awe, and the reality of how dangerous the internet can be is the flip side of how wonderful the internet is. So it's like seat belts. Your car will take you to places you couldn't easily walk to, but you better put on your seatbelt or you will fly through the windshield. And we try to keep that balance in the message as well too, but because of the level of unawareness or lack of awareness or sensitivity to the dangers, it is important to make it patently clear that you must be afraid and be very afraid. And as we've said in Belize and we're saying across the region, but also be prepared, be informed, be updated, and be
and resistance is not futile.
That is correct. So, right,
yes.
So it comes with the seatbelt message.
You wanted to? Oh, okay. All right. It's eclipse time, folks. It's 3:30. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. Thank you. You're quite right. Yes, there were. I forget that we had people not in front of me.
Yeah. From on live stream with Claire Craig from UWI and Caribnog, and Yassine Kiladi, who everybody should know because he's been around forever. I mean, it's not in a bad way.
Yes.
Yassine is one of the people, is the person who moderates the Civic ICT Caribbean mailing list.
Mhm.
He's the one who sits down and goes through all those emails and has been doing it for what, nearly over a
Yes.
decade?
Yes, over a decade.
Over a decade. He also works as Latin American and Caribbean coordinator for the Alliance for Affordable Internet Worldwide Foundation. So he's very big on, he's from the Dominican Republic, and he works on a lot of development, ICT for development issues and access issues. And those are the
Okay.
two I got so far.
Ah, okay. All right. Were there any comments or questions from online? No. Okay. All right. So it's eclipse time. Let's take 26 minutes and come back for I come back at 4 o'clock and learn a little bit more now about DNSSEC and especially for financial institutions, given that we are here in the BVI. Okay. Yes. All right. Probably in the afternoon. Probably. It does look kind of dark outside.